G'day Baddlers, and welcome to the G'day Baddlers podcast, where it's currently four sleeps away from the Brisbane Regional. I'm your co-host Debbie Pebble with PvP Steve, aka Josh on the infographic or the stream graphic. Hi Steve, Josh.
Hi, it's me again. I didn't make a new apology video this time. I just, stuck it straight. And only a few references this time. But
there were still people that were confused, being like, "Where's Steve?"
Look, the secret's pretty much out at this point. I think we're past that point.
Oh, this is not an expose again.
Oh, sorry. If you're watching the G'day Battlers podcast for the first time and you're just tuning in for this one in particular, sorry, not sorry. But yeah, the big, news, the breaking news since the last time is that Brisbane will have a stream. And it is this weekend. So
let's go.
The first time we've got a community stream in the Oceanic region outside of Perth. So
wow.
It's taken us a long time to get here, but last April we had the first community stream. We have almost hit the 1 year mark, which is pretty impressive, I think.
I mean, to get one outside of Perth is incredible.
Really does tell you how long it has been for like a non-Perth regional as well. Because Melbourne was in February, right? And so we've taken from February to the end of March to have an East Coast regional, which kind of insane, I will suggest.
Yeah. A whole year, right? Basically. Yeah.
Over a year with no regional outside of Perth.
Oh, I didn't notice.
Yeah. So, look, anyway, we do have the big news. Brisbane is going to be a one-dayer. So the big stream is going to be at twitch.tv/PvPSteve7 and I'm just looking at the graphic now. It's at 9 a.m. Brisbane time. So, Aussies can convert that easily. But if you're listening from the overseas, it's at Friday, 4 p.m. PT this coming Friday, or 11 p.m. UTC this coming Friday. So obviously it's a late one for the Europeans, but it's going to be a really long stream. So we are still going to be going by the time you wake up on Saturday morning, almost guaranteed. But most of you are night owls anyway, so you'll probably catch the start of the stream.
I found this, I suppose, concerning trend within the Pokemon Go PvP community, and they stay up late. So they have an odd sleep schedule.
I don't know how to break this to you, Debbie, but not only is it not just the Pokemon Go PvP community, I think not only is it just, video gaming community, I think it's probably just the majority of people. I think that a lot of people have got some pretty late sleep schedules. That's why the whole stereotype exists of, the alarm going off and be like, oh no, I'm going to be late for work and rushing because they were, I think it's a paradigm not limited to us. I mean, not us, me. I'm not on that train. Don't loop me into that lot.
No, you are very much in your own little circle in the Venn diagram somewhere. Just Steve.
Yeah. I don't know about me personally. There's a few others
Steve
in there, I'm sure.
Friend.
There's a few other early morningers. Oh, man. Well, let me know if you're my friend, I guess, in the YouTube
Yeah,
comments,
it's the bird that sings outside in the morning.
This morning I got up before that guy. So.
Oh.
Not always. But anywho, the Brisbane Regional stream, obviously Debbie and I are both going to be casting. So looking forward to that. And then we're going to be joined by Fish Nahida for his sort of community stream debut. And originally we were going to be joined by Dr. Trotter, but unfortunately he's had to drop out. And he's got a post on Twitter that you can read as well about that. Just had to drop out for anxiety reasons. But Stumpy, 2517, as I lovingly refer to him as, is going to be joining the cast as well. So looking forward to sort of seeing how it runs this Saturday.
And I think when I saw that Stumpy got added in, all I could think was 2517, 2517, which is all I typed to you because I was like, it's Stumpy. So it's going to be a good one. It's going to
Yeah.
be a really good one. So as Steve mentioned, if you happen to be in Brisbane, say hi. If not, watch the stream, get involved. And if you are sleeping, then watch it later.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to pretty instant upload it to YouTube as
Here's a
well.
question
So
for you.
for those people that...
Would you
Yeah.
rebroadcast it on Twitch?
Oh. I don't know. It's not something I've thought about, but like, who is... I don't know what the interest level is for that, to be honest with you. I've never paid attention because like the Pokemon channels obviously do that for the official streams. They rebroadcast them back for like sort of the opposite time zone. Do people watch them? Like, is that...
I mean, obviously it's not going to be the same viewer count as the original, but there are people that do watch them. I think the only thing is that the chat will be unmonitored. As in, like, if it's on and you're doing something else, then you're not monitoring chat and someone...
Yeah, you know what? Just for that reason, it's not getting rebroadcast on Twitch. It's going to be put on YouTube straight instead if you want to watch it back. Of course, you can watch the Twitch VOD back as well. But we do have some more moderator power going around this time as well. So hopefully moderation should be a little bit tighter this go around. So thankful for the folks, especially Pokemon professors that have sort of jumped on that train to sort of help out with that.
But yay, Brisbane! So Brisbane has been confirmed to be a 1-day stream. So it will be on Saturday.
Yep.
There won't be a flow-on day 2 championship Sunday. That doesn't happen. It is all on a Saturday. So be prepared for a long one. Get your snacks. Get water. Get hydrated because it'll be a good one.
Yep, should be pretty good. So, yeah, I know that I think in the last episode we said that there probably wasn't going to be another episode before Brisbane.
Surprise!
But we figured we'd jump on for sort of 2 reasons. Number one, so we can say, hey, there's going to be a stream. But number 2, so that we can sort of cover the India Qualifiers and the Stockholm Regional Championship that have both sort of, I guess, kicked off the Might and Mastery season. So sort of give us that preview as we sort of head into the Brisbane Regional Championships this weekend. So that is essentially what we're going to do today. Now that we're we're approaching the 10-minute mark of this particular recording, so you get that on the big jobs, I suppose. You're never coming around here for brevity. I'll put it that way. But just to actually, we can start off with the India Qualifiers before we get into the other topics, because essentially this was the first official tournament for the Championship Series in the Might and Mastery season. And for those that don't know how the Asian circuit works, it's very different to the regional circuit in that they go through a qualifiers. So for India specifically, they had 256 people split in half, so 128, 128, and each 128 pool went into an 8-round Swiss tournament. And the top 16 from each 8-round Swiss tournament progress on to the next tournament, which is a playoffs tournament that is going to be played next weekend, so the weekend after Brisbane Regionals. So it's all that to say, it's just a whittling down step to go from 256 battlers down to 32 battlers. And that is sort of our opening point for the Might and Mastery season.
Yeah, it's confusing. I'm not gonna lie, it's super confusing. When I heard that there was like 2 qualifiers, I was just like, wait, what do you mean? Isn't that just like a top 32? It's like, yes, but this is how it gets to this point. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But let's head into the India Regional Qualifiers 1 firstly. And Steve, you did a bit of research into this earlier before DracoViz did their little graphics, and I think there were some surprising choices, to say the least.
Yeah. Look, I'll put it this way. As much as there were 256 battlers involved, there were not 256 competitive teams. To put it in perspective, and the stat that I kept throwing out on Twitter was that there was more than 2% Blissey usage.
Maybe they were onto it. Maybe India was onto it early and we just didn't catch on. We just laughed at it, but maybe they were onto it.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be Debbie and I sort of one of our favorite parts of the Stockholm Regional stream when we talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, they could have been ahead of the game on that front. Although probably not. We know not. Debbie and I saw a lot of the other picks that were sort of running around as well, and they were pretty wild. And so as much as the sort of like, as far as the usage was concerned, like Mandibuzz was the biggest Pokemon, followed by Azumarill, Clodsire, Drapion. And that changed quite a bit when it came to the sort of winners, the people who progressed through. And this is where Dracoviz sort of comes in, because they do, they do their graphics as they do, and they've got usage data for the successful teams, the top 16 from each tournament. And let me tell you this, Debbie, the differences between the two qualifiers, the Saturday one and the Sunday one, are stark. And this isn't a case where, like, the second qualifier could learn from the first one. Everyone had to lock in their teams at the exact same time. And so it's one part sort of chance about, like, maybe your tournament had more Pangoro than the other one. But it's also one part, like, maybe the battlers that just, the best battlers in group 2 happened to be running more Wigglytuff. I don't know. And it's really hard to make those judgments, especially when these battles weren't streamed or such. So all we can really say is that in one of the tournaments, the top 4 were Credilli, Shadow Drapion, Lapras, and Clodsire. And the other tournament, the top 4 were Shadow Drapion, Clodsire, Talonflame, and Azumarill. With some sort of differences down through the rest of the top 12. But maybe just as a bit of a point of comparison, we can sort of just point out the top 2 teams from each of the 2 tournaments, and then have a little bit of a maybe mention some other teams that look pretty interesting to us, or at least got some spice attached.
Yeah,
as we
so for, let's call it qualifier 1, that PvP person ran a Credilli, Shadow Drapion, Lapras, regular Lapras, Clodsire, Mandibuzz, and Blue Gastrodon. And then person coming second ran also a Credilli, a regular Primate, Lapras, Clodsire, Mandibuzz, and Golisopod. Is that the correct pronunciation? I can't.
That is the correct way to say the word. However, I will say I was the one that pasted this graphic, but this is actually the old graphic by the seams of it that is on the Dracoviz website, because this is a bit of a mistake, and it's Ryuga, who is on this graphic as coming second, actually came first with the official tiebreakers and whatnot. So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter too much, because they all sort of came 7-1, and I don't even know if there's any difference between them. Like, I don't know if there's seeding involved. There probably is, but as far as like qualifying for the next stage, it's a little bit irrelevant. But yeah, sort of, I guess, some consistency there in Mandibuzz big, Clodsire big, Lapras big, and Credilli big, which makes sense seeing as they are the top 4 Pokemon out of this particular tournament. So that sort of checks out. But there were certainly some other picks that sort of came in large. I think 2 Pokemon in particular caught my eye. One was Claydol, because, as we went to the Might Mastery season, everyone joked. They were like, haha, Claydol's so silly. It's getting another move update. It's not going to be any good. Whoever at Niantic is pressing the Claydol button every time, there's just got another laugh in there. But 2 Claydol made it to the top 8.
There we go. So whoever's, working the buttons at the back, being like, yeah, come on, Claydol. It's finally just being like, yay. Look, next season, I bet you it's going to get another buff.
I wouldn't be shocked. Let's put it that way. Maybe I'll have to wait another season, but it's definitely going to have another one in its future. It's got so many moves that almost if you buff any move in the game, Claydol is just by chance. I was going to say,
it's probably going to get another charge move into the pool.
It's going to have more charge moves than Mew in a second. It's kind of ridiculous. But the other, I guess, big pick out of the first qualifier, I thought, was the Melmetal that came in 4th place, or sort of equal first place, because, again, it's part of the pool of 7-1s. No one went 8-0 outright. It was the Basest 60, who is running Melmetal alongside Guzzlord, Jellicent. And I thought that, like, as much as Melmetal is awesome, I like the fact that it's got double Iron Bash, you've got superpower, you've got coverage into Pokemon like the Credilli running around, you've got coverage for the flyers like Mandibuzz, which again was pretty big here, you've got fighting coverage for the Lapras, you've got, and they're not running Rock Slides, they don't actually have that super effective damage for things like Talonflame, but obviously it performs really well. I thought that V-Basis, because I made a video on
Yes.
V-Basis run, and I think the Pokemon that was more interesting to me was the
Mm.
Guzzlord. Guzzlord really stood out as a high performer, which makes sense in that we were sort of going into this meta expecting dark
Mhm,
types to be
mhm,
quite good. And Guzzlord is just able to soak up all of the grass damage, all of the water damage, all of the fire damage from Talonflame. Like it just resists
mhm.
all of this damage and can really put out quite a bit of heft itself. So I thought it was really interesting. Even though it's the only Guzzlord in the top 16 of this one, I definitely, know with some, I guess, foresight of what's to come that Guzzlord did increase in usage out of
Yeah,
here.
and yeah, but still really spicy with the male metal. Like I don't think that that was even seen or like I just even yeah, just such an interesting pick and obviously your video highlighted it, but it was just kind of like male metal. It definitely was not talked about at all in the any of the chats that people were talking about going what might be good in this season and that to pop out pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, if I can sort of try and meta simplify, backtrack it, if you, because everyone was expecting Mandibuzz to be good, and again, it was the number one used Pokemon in the overall
Mm,
256 players, then fighters become a little less worse. So Primeape and
mhm,
Annihilate both become worse. If fighters become a little bit worse, all of a sudden, maybe it's not so crazy to bring a steel type
mm-mm,
Pokemon into the mix, especially one that can hit all of these big Pokemon you're expected to see, like the Lapras and the Credilli. So I don't think it's an insane pull. It's just not a pull that any of us
mm-mm,
were expecting going into this particular tournament, but still did incredibly well, and they have qualified
mhm,
for the playoffs. So we'll see if they sort of keep the
mhm.
Melmetal train running. Personally, I might have my doubts, but you never know. It
We'll
could
see.
happen,
We'll
I
see.
suppose.
Mm,
We'll see. But yeah, I mean that's the first qualifier, I guess.
mm,
Then we can look at the second one, where the winner of the tournament was Master Mahir, who was running Jumpluff, Shadow Drapion, Lapras, Clodsire, Guzzlord, and Shadow Annihilate, getting a win here. And then in second place was Nava Empire with Superior, Grumpig, Blastoise, Clodsire, Mandibuzz,
mhm.
and Wigglytuff, which I'll be honest, I was pretty excited to see Grumpig
Yeah,
succeeding.
look, I think Grumpig was one of those that I don't know whether it was like very similar on like on the Claydol scale of things. When I saw all the updates for Might and Mastery, I'm just like, why do they give so many moves to Grumpig? So yeah, it was just uh, when they played that halfway meta in the previous region, I wasn't sure. Like there was obviously people weren't bringing because it wasn't valid moves yet, so I was just like, okay. But yeah, the fact that Nava Empire could take it to a 7-1 with it, maybe there's some weight behind it now.
Yeah, I'm gonna take that and instantly dump it. So my take on Grumpy going into this meta was a big
Mhm.
thumbs down. I was like, there were a lot of content creators really hyping it up, and I just kept looking at it and being like, I don't see what you guys see. I just don't think that this holds up to muster. I think that the dark types are just going to keep it down a little bit too harsh. I think that you've got another Psywave user in Lapras that people are going to use instead. And if you have two Psywave users, the dark types on your team are just going to get even more powerful because they're resisting two of the opposing Pokemon. It just felt a little bit too, I don't know, scary to use. It seemed a little. It didn't seem like it had
Mm.
enough juice in the tank. And I can confirm because, well, Nava Empire has apparently said that Grumpig wasn't a big,
Mhm.
a big player in
I
his
see.
rise to the top. So the fact that there's no other, oh no, there is one other Grumpig in the
Mhm.
top 16. Austin
Mhm.
Prince went 6-2. So maybe they had more success with it, but I'm really not a big Grumpig
Mm-mm.
believer personally. As much I'd love to be, I would love to see it succeed. I just I wouldn't put my
Says
money
the
on it.
Welmer dude. Uh,
Hey, good point. Someone can do it, and I'll be
we need someone
impressed.
to make Grumpig work, and that can be their Pokemon.
Yeah, I
Brisbane
would love to
Regional.
see
If
it.
you bring a Grumpig and you win, Steve will give you a Welmer. I don't know.
Good. I mean, I can. I don't think anyone wants that, but sure.
A,
I mean, happily put it on
a
the line
drawn
on
one.
my behalf. Um, oh, that gets tougher. But there were a few other spice picks as well in this India qualifier as well. There was a Metacham in third from Beelza Boy. Someone who already does have a world's invitation from their top 4 finish at the World Championships in Honolulu, but performed really well here with Metacham and Carbink, which Carving is definitely going to be a bit of a scary one, I would argue. We had a few Blastoises in the top 8, and I think the team that got a lot of attention was this one from Harjeet 244, because they were running a Gardevoir, a Skeledirge, Toxicroak, Altaria alongside Blastoise and Talonflame, and they had a 6-2 record. I think this was triple axle Gardevoir as well.
Charm, triple axle, and Shadow Ball.
I feel like it didn't have Charm. I'm struggling to remember what its fast move was.
Confusion.
Maybe. I can't quite remember. I don't think it was Confusion, though. I think it was a low damage one. But the story there, in some sense, is that they got a bye in round 1, and it seems like the Swiss formula kind of got hecky. And so they did not have to play another battler that reached the top 16 in their entire 6-2 run. They just never had to face them. So hard to say how competitive that team actually is, but it made it onto the graphic all the same. So look, shout out.
The Swiss format, it can be blessed sometimes.
You could say that.
And I did.
Yeah. I guess any other pieces of note from you on the India qualifiers?
I do like the idea of Shadow Dusk Noir, that Paris B-Hole 400 401 brought in. So that was kind of cool. Obviously something that was buffed during the new season update. But to get, let's call it equal 5th, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was definitely also a cool pick to see succeed. It really just, bottom line is that it is just unfortunate that this is all a little bit behind smoke and mirrors. We don't get to see a lot of these battles. I know, shout out to someone listening right now, Mikey Morgs. He does have a little bit of footage from
Mikey.
the India qualifiers, so stay tuned. Hi, Mikey. Stay tuned for some footage from there out of these India qualifiers as well, especially in the lead up to the India playoffs next weekend. So hopefully that'll give us a bit more insight into what actually happened here. But with that said, good luck to everyone that is playing in the playoffs. We'll cover it when it does happen. But I think we'll move on to the regional that did get some sort of coverage, which was the Stockholm Regional Championships in Sweden, which I only just finished watching today. So this is good timing for me, at least.
I'm glad someone's caught up on it.
Yeah, again, this is where being an early to bed man sort of holds me back a little bit in that I'm not watching any of this stuff live. Those European regionals, I'm catching those things up, days later. But I've watched it all now, and there were definitely some pretty awesome performances. But look, let's cut right to the chase, Debbie. There's one thing that we both want to talk about, and let's talk about it.
Look, there's 2 things I want to talk about.
So
I'm going to save that one thing that we want to talk about. But before that, how cool was it PvP David versus his dad?
It was so awesome. Winners semis of their group on stream, PvP David verse, and his dad has an absolute jumble of letters as his username. And I don't know if I think it might have been Tomahawk that said that, he just intentionally said it so that it was impossible to say. And so they decided on the broadcast to just call him Dad. So it's just PvP David versus Dad. And it was just so awesome. It was so cool to see him battling away. Clearly both having fun with it. Some BMs going on as well. Dad playing Bastion and trying to catch the Talonflame. It was one of my favorite sets to watch of all time on the Play Pokemon circuit.
Yeah, I mean, awesome. It was poetic. It was just such a good, wholesome feel. I was watching it live and I'm just like, this is adorable. I wish this would I don't know how to capture this feeling. I don't know how to we need more parent battles. It's kind of how I would always want the idea of the Olympics being run and just regular people doing the same thing just to compare. This is how I feel where you got someone like PvP David and then Dad. But hey, I mean, he got to that point, like semis in the winners final, winners run. That's still amazing.
Yeah, that is the thing. The fact that it was the winners semis of their group means that he did actually have to beat people along the way, and so it is cool to see that, like, it wasn't just some walk in the park, throw a random guy in there. Like, he'd actually been able to beat people along the way. Again, the Dracovies isn't updated yet, so not sure who he had to conquer on his route to attack his son on stage on live camera. But it was a really cool battle to watch, and I do look forward to sort of similar things happening in the future. But what was extra cool is that it was literally immediately followed up by the other thing that we want to talk about. Back to back. Literally two of my favorite battles of all time. Debbie, do you want to break it down?
Bolton is currently my favorite player.
He's a hero. I messaged him to tell him he's my hero.
Message him again and tell him he's also my hero. Because what he did was he brought a Chansey. And I thought that, I was like, oh, a Chansey. Okay, interesting. And then the casters were talking about timeout strats. And I'm just like, oh, no way. Because all I could think about is, like, I've played things like Little Cup, and timeout strats are important as well, because there's such, like, you're thinking about shuckles and very large HP Pokemon. So I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, you got to play a bit of timeout strats sometimes. I just never thought it was playable in the play Pokemon circuit. So for him to be like, one, to run a Chansey, two, to get top 12 with it, I thought it was incredible.
Yeah, so it wasn't just the Chansey, right? It was Chansey backed up by a bunch of Pokemon that could debuff people's attack. So like Mantine with Bubble Beam, Dugong with Icy Wind, Superior with Leaf Tornado. Like, he had these options to really slow down the opponents. And something that they brought up on the broadcast was he would keep checking his watch, just to be like, he'd check what time the battle started, because he knew, it takes this long for the battle to finish. Like, I'm going to be in the switch. It'll be 50 seconds before I can swap. Every charge move was 10 seconds. And so he just kept track of the entire battle, debuffing his opponents, making sure that he had more Pokemon remaining than his opponent, or at least more HP than his opponent, so that when the timer hit 0, he would sort of get given the default win for having more Pokemon or more HP. And it was just such a unique strategy. It is something that I've always criticized Pokemon Go, in the sense that it often feels like there's not a lot of way that you can express yourself in terms of how you build your team. Generally, you're going to build a team of 6 strong Pokemon that generally have good coverage of the meta. That is generally how you build a team. Galactica Bolton, potentially, like, I would argue, for the first time in the history of competitive Pokemon Go, has designed a new strategy of how to approach the championship series, a show 6 tournament, by building a stall out strat that, quite frankly, no one has ever prepared for before. There was not a single other person in that tournament that was like, oh, I know exactly how to tackle this. Obviously, they didn't win the tournament, right? They finished in top 12, which is awesome. But it was really, in some sense, it came down to, because one of their losses was on stream. And I think in some sense, it comes down to the fact that Chansey's weak to fighting. So if they had any sort of fighting coverage, then all of a sudden the team became a little less strong than it was otherwise. But it was really cool to watch.
And it goes back to what you said earlier, where a lot of the fighters have been brought down in this meta. So less of the Annihilates, less of the Primates. And I know with one of the losses that Galactic Bolton had was against PvP David, which had a Pangoro on his team. And Galactic Bolton went 0-2 in that match. So I was just like, I see. I see where the hole was here. But to, again, push it all the way to where he got with this particular strat and execute it so well, I'm like, that's amazing. And like you said, he's looking at his watch. It wasn't like, one of those like dodgy watches. It was just one of those like just normal watches, being like, all right, cool, timer's on, let's go. Because I can tell you, I have looked at my watch when I've done Little Cup and been like, okay, Shuckle's gone, all right, let's see where we go. I totally get it. I respect it.
All I'm saying is, if I was competing in Brisbane Regionals this weekend and I wasn't casting, I would be running Galactica Bolton's team. Like 100% chance I would be running the stall out strat because it's just so unique and it's just such a rare opportunity to run a strategy that people aren't prepared for. So I just think it's so cool. This is going to get talked about for a really long time. We'll see if it does sort of get replicated. I think that very quickly people will at least be a little bit prepared for it. But it's one of those things that you don't see very much in Pokemon Go, and you see it all the time in TCG or VG, in being prepared for niche pieces of tech. So like, maybe only 4% of players run this piece of tech, but you need to have something in your build just in case you hit that opponent, that 4% chance, or you take the risk and you be like, look, 96% of my opponent, 96% chance that my opponent isn't running this. I'm going to take the risk that I just don't run into anyone running it. And you might get called out. So I just think it's really interesting to bring this new avenue to the game that I think is super
So
cool.
what Steve is saying is that on Sunday, make sure you bring something with counter or with...
No. Stop. You're going to make me not win. Oh, Debbie. You've just actively hurt me. Oh, man. This sucks.
Oh, come on. After you said that,
If I don't win, point to this moment.
If
point
you
to this
don't
moment
win,
right here.
because it's not,
because
that's purely the reason. That's purely I'm to blame for everything if you purely lose any match on Sunday.
Yes.
Not if you're like, not if you're
I'm
up
glad
against
we're on the same page.
Yakovovich or something like that. It's just...
Yeah, well, he probably listened to the podcast. There's
he's
no other
featured
explanation.
in here somewhere, right?
He's got to be at some point. But anyway, it's a really cool team that we definitely both were pretty hyped about, Galaxka Bolton. So I shouted to him, and we'll see if anyone decides to run it back at Brisbane Regionals this weekend.
I reckon it'd be cool.
Yeah, I have my doubts, but we'll see. You never know.
We will find out.
We'll find out because the winner of the tournament did have a fighter. Second place in the tournament did have a fighter. Fourth place had a fighter. There's a Malamar in the top 6. So there is fighting damage running around. And so it was going to get more and more difficult for Galaxka Bolton as he sort of passed on through, to say the least. But let's talk about the winners, I suppose. And there is, I guess, another piece to talk about this tournament as well. But the winner was a return champion from the 2022 season back at Bremen. This time taking out Stockholm, it was nickname 29585. Someone who I was able to spend some time with in Gdansk, and he's just a very funny guy. And so he was running the Lapras Swalot, which is something we should talk about, the Azumarill, Guzzlord, Shadow Annihilate, and Talonflame, which already a little bit unexpected in so many ways. One is that Annihilate feels like it shouldn't be around anymore. It feels like, what is Annihilate still doing here? It's, it has a little bit of a dicey matchup even with Lapras, and that's when you have counter. Just because the Psywave damage really does add up back to you. I think in the PvPoke default sims, Shadow Annihilate wins by 1 turn. Regular Annihilate loses by 1 turn, I think.
Yeah.
Something like that. But I guess one of the big stories here, 1, Guzzlord, it is exceeding. But 2, Swalot was at over 20% usage in this tournament, which came out of nowhere from the India qualifiers.
Look, there must have been some talks and something happening in the background, because how did Swalot go from 0 to on the graphic? And look, Steve, you might need to tell me some context behind here, but why is Swalot referred to as Italian Muck?
Do you need me to answer that?
Is it the moustache?
I mean, it's the
moustache. I see.
That's all it is. It's a purple blob and it's got a mustache. That's about all you need to know. But yeah, look, Swalot was on 4 out of the top 8 teams. It got Sludge, which has been buffed this season, which obviously gives it really good neutral coverage across the board. And then it's also running Ice Beam, which gives really interesting type coverage as well. That came in clutch a lot of times, especially because Swalot is a relatively bulky Pokemon. It was really multiple times throughout the tournament. I was able to just, hang on, get a bigger Ice Beam off, take out a Claydol or something and win a game. Look, it wasn't a Pokemon I was expecting to be big this season, But it's a Pokemon that everyone in Brisbane is really going to have to prepare for because it is going to be on a lot of teams, especially because it gives really good coverage into Pokemon like Credilli, which was I think the number one used Pokemon in day one of Stockholm.
I mean, that Credilli is definitely not on the rise, it's meta. I think people are trying to navigate around it. So Swalot's the way to go. So now we have to navigate around Swalot. So what do you think of I wouldn't say insurgents, but like Alolan Sandslash? A lot more being brought in now.
Yeah, it didn't perform so well in terms of there's two in the top 8, and then I think there might only be one more in the rest of the top
3,
16.
Yeah.
But I think it's three total. I think. I think it's a very interesting core breaker in terms of you have access to Drill Run, which is going to give you really good coverage into the Swalot, also into Shadow Drapion, which is still running around. Also the Clodsires, I suppose. But then you've also got Ice Punch, which is going to give you good coverage into, and I'm just sort of staring at the graphic here. You've got Pokemon, obviously Credilli, you've got grass types you're going to be able to hit. You've got flyers like Mandibuzz that you're going to be able to hit. Emolga was in the top 16. You've got coverage for the ground types, so obviously Clodsire, but then also there's Pokemon like Kanto Marowak that is, managed to sneak back in here in some sense because they're able to counter the poison types in Drapion and Swalot. Also Corviknight, I suppose, although Corviknight's a bit of a monster. Pidgeot was in the top 8 as well from C. Leonardo. You've got coverage into the Guzzlord as well. So I think it's a very interesting core breaker. I don't expect it to be top meta because it is a little bit hard to use. Obviously, it's one of those Pokemon that loses matchups really, really, really hard if you get it caught in a bad spot. If you get it locked into a Talonflame or a Primeape, all of a sudden you are going to be shedding tears faster than Sandslash sheds health. And so it can get a little bit dicey. So I don't think it's for everyone. I think it's a Pokemon that can succeed in the hands of a high-skilled trainer is how I would categorize it personally. Or a very lucky RPS trainer.
So you're saying that I have a chance.
Hey, if you want to run it, you go for
Let's
it.
be honest, I'll be running Chansey. So still, people would bring their fighters. Whether I bring a Alolan Sandslash or Chansey, like, what is the common weakness here?
Yeah, so...
Maybe that's what I want. I want people to bring out all their fighters so then I can just bring a fairy team. It's a strat. It's a strat.
Oh, she's thinking 2 steps ahead. She's always 2 steps ahead. Interesting. Okay. So in Stockholm though, we saw Nick Name take the win over PvP David, who he did have to face sort of twice, once in the winners finals and then again in the grand finals after PvP David took out Dane WWW, which they love to say on the broadcast. They love to keep saying WWW the whole way through, which they said stood for the number of wins that he was picking up throughout the tournament. But I think the other sort of big shout out, certainly in the top 4, was from Uden, who I believe was the one who was succeeding with a Dragapult in Gdansk way back when. And this time brought a pick that I know Debbie you're a bit fond of, and certainly so was Lou the Pikachu.
It's a Furret. Yay! Someone's successful with a Furret. Well, bold enough to bring one because it's definitely not your typical choice. I don't think it's the most bulkiest Pokemon, but hey, like it has Sucker Punch, it has Trailblaze. I don't know what the next move is, but that's the only 2 moves moves I would use.
It's also got Swift, which does give it really nice neutral coverage across the board against the things that resist grass. But yeah, it kind of did well for him. Like it won a few battles. It had good matchups into one of the other Pokemon that, again, sort of staying on top here. 2 in the top 8, 1 on PvP David's team, the Claydol. Apparently it is actually meta, which is still kind of crazy to me. But, it has that Sucker Punch super effective damage. You've got the Trailblaze for all of the Laprases and such running around. Also the Azumarill. There were a lot of Azumarils.
Yeah, sorry, Arceus Aurelius, but yeah, there were a lot of Azumarils. Poor dude.
Yeah, so many Azumarils that in the very first streamed tournament of the season, I guess I should mention for those that don't know, on Twitter/X, Arceus Aurelius made this big declaration. It's like, hey, I bet that Azumarill will not win a tournament in the Might and Mastery season. So for the next 3 months, it will not win a single Championship Series tournament. Tournament 1. Day 2, Azumarill is the most common Pokemon in Day 2 Top Cut teams. And of course, it goes ahead and wins the entire thing. It was on 6 of the top 8 teams. And at the end of the day, and the stakes. Caleb Peng replied to him saying, like, if this is wrong, transfer your Talonflame. And Arceus Aurelius instead said, if this is wrong, well, he said Caleb could pour a gallon of water over my head on broadcast. And Caleb may not have been in Stockholm, but they did pour a gallon of water over his head after the sort of Azumarill did succeed. Although there was an unfortunate little stitch up where they started to pour the water, then the camera cut out. And then the camera cuts back in while he's drenched in water. So you sort of missed the moment on broadcast, which is a little sad, but yeah, it's still a bit funny. And very funny that it happened on broadcast 1.
Yeah, he couldn't even hang out into broadcast 2. But
it makes for a tighter storyline, so I'll give it to him.
I think he was like trying to cross his fingers and toes that Dane WWW could have made it all the way, but once he got kicked out, it was pretty funny from there because you just see Marcus with his hands in his head going,
Yeah, pretty good value. And there was only one other battler in the top 8 who didn't have Azumarill, who was Withered 9. And I think that Withered is one of the other big highlights of the tournament because they are 14 years old. A brand new wonder kid jumping onto the scene. Withered was on an absolute tear as well. And I think the battle for me that really made it stand out, and anyone who watches the Brisbane broadcast, forgive me, because you're going to hear me go into a full spiel about it at some point in the broadcast, almost guaranteed, because I just love it. But he sits down across from Padaman, the EUIC champion. He just got crowned in the biggest official Pokemon Go tournament of all time. And he swept him up like nothing. Like he just absolutely wrecked him. He was just in full control. He was reading every single thing, and it just felt like Padaman. It was as if he was facing me across the table. Like it was just nothing that Padaman could do. He was just absolutely getting floored by this guy. And so really cool to see him see someone succeed like that we hadn't seen before, and I look forward to them competing in brand new tournaments.
And I've always said that the future of Pokemon Go is in the kids, as in these young children. I say children because they're just coming in. They just got that age qualifier that they can actually come and play now, because we don't have a seniors in Pokemon Go. It is just a conglomerate of masters, but any age group plays into. So, yeah, I think, for example, Perth Regional, we have the youngest regional champion. So, yeah, these are the kids to look out for. And he got swept into Tea and Pizza pretty quick, didn't he?
I don't even think that he left the stage before Tea and Pizza had recruited him onto their squad, which also hilarious nickname. And was it Pogo Ash that pointed this out? I can't quite remember. But it got pointed out that his first nickname after winning the tournament, his first tweet was making a meme about Tea and Pizza instantly picking up anyone making it to Day 2 rather than tweeting about his success winning the tournament, which... pretty funny.
Like I said, he's a pretty funny dude.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the guy. I look forward to hanging out with him sometime in the future as well, because he's good value.
Well, talking about the future, do we talk about what's happening? Well, when will you see nickname next?
Well, I suppose the chances are I'll next see nickname in August at the Pokemon World Championships in Anaheim. What a segue, by the way. It was a really class act. But essentially, Debbie and I guess, also brand new news today. We're sort of revealing a lot of news today. Well, not revealing, but we're bringing up a lot of news today. we've both been given creator passes from the
Thank
Pokemon
you.
Company International to attend the Pokemon World Championships. So thank
Mhm.
you, Big Pikachu. We really do appreciate it. We attended the last two World Championships in the same fashion, and it was
Ah,
really cool
I
both
can't wait.
times.
Like,
So
it's just been such a hype day since we can announce that we're going to Anaheim, and especially because we are coming from Australia. So a lot of the creators that are going are usually, well, a majority are American based. So the fact that I'm like, we're actually going too. We have to fly a long way, but we're coming. Hi.
hey guys. We'll be there. So obviously, like, we've been talking about going to Worlds since the
Mm,
last World Championships. So it's not like it's a surprise to
yeah.
anyone that we're attending, but it's still cool to sort of, I don't know, get the sort of hashtag
Mhm.
free access from TPCI. And so I've certainly got some content
Oh,
plans
oh, I
cooking,
see.
looking to sort of step things up from last year. But
Yep. Yeah.
we'll see how it all goes. I
The
look
only
forward
thing
to
I'm
this
cooking
year's.
is increasing the Pokemon Center budget. And maybe my
Ooh,
luggage space.
I'm sort of, yeah. I'm kind of hoping that, I've got socks now. I've got Pokemon socks for
Mhm.
days. I could wear nothing but Pokemon socks. So I don't that's sort of a clothing item ticked off. I don't need to buy any more of those. And so I'm just sort of hoping that I might be pretty good at the moment. Although, my Yokohama backpack did break. I am now onto my Honolulu
Mhm.
backpack. So I'm wondering if I need to get an Anaheim backpack as the sort of next in line. I'm not sure. Maybe we risk it, but maybe we
Mhm.
shouldn't. I don't know. Depends what it looks like, I guess. We haven't seen
No,
the
no,
merch
no,
quite
that
yet.
has not
So
been released. And hopefully, we can get to the Pokemon Center. So yeah, we'll see, we'll see. But yeah, really, really excited. I think there's also been some other Go creators as well that have been announced. So it's nice to get everyone involved and yeah, just be like, yay, hey, we're at Worlds and celebrate Worlds. Just everyone's accomplishments during the season and crowning the next world champion. So yay! I'm really excited. It's next to Disney, which I'm also kind of like, oh, that's kind of cool. But also, I know people have already asked, but more than likely, I will not be going to Disney.
yeah, look, my big advice or my big feeling was like, man, not only is it going to be when Pokemon Worlds is on, when everyone is going to want to go to Disney because they're right next door, but it's also during the US school
Mm,
holidays, which is when a bunch of US people are flying in to attend Disney anyway. So I feel like it's going to be like the worst possible time to go. It is going to be so busy, so crowded, which obviously, like, it sucks. Like, it would be so convenient to walk across the road and go to Disney, but it feels like it's a poor time in my mind. I don't know though. Like, obviously for some people, and we're probably very privileged in saying that, because for many people it would be sort of
mm,
once in a lifetime. Like, oh, I'm in Anaheim. I am
mhm.
going to go to Disney, and like, fair enough. Like, that's completely valid.
This might
So
turn heads, but not that big of a Disney fan.
I mean, I think the
The
parks are
plushes
cool.
don't have Disney. um,
Yeah, I'm not a Disney merch man. I'll put it that way.
oh
But
look, he comes back from August. He's
I
gonna have
think the
like
parks are
Mickey
cool.
headset, Mickey mittens.
Yeah. Forget about the caddies in the background. It's going to be Mickey ears all the way. You just wait. Watch this space. But look,
Mhm.
we'll see. And let us know if you're going to
Yeah.
be there as well. If we're going to be
Mhm.
able to meet you in Anaheim. Because obviously the last two have been, well, I mean, the last one was in the US. It
Mm-mm.
was in Hawaii. But obviously that's a bit far away for a lot of people in the
Mhm.
continental states. So this is going to be the most accessible. To be honest with you, the most accessible to the non-Asian audience in years. um, Literally since London in 2022. It's the most accessible to Americans since Pokemon Go started being featured in the World
Mm-mm.
Championships. This is literally the most accessible one. So for a lot of Americans, this is going to be their first Worlds. And so I look forward to seeing a lot of you
Yay.
there, to say the
It's gonna be so
least.
much fun. But yeah, if you are coming, say hi.
Yeah. But Look, I think those are all of the big topics that we sort of
Mhm.
had to go over today. You know, Brisbane
Yep.
Regional stream is happening, Stockholm,
Mhm.
India Qualifiers, we're
Mhm.
going to Worlds as well. And so I think we can probably get into the
Mhm.
YouTube
Mhm.
comments from I keep going to say last week's episode, 2 weeks back. And I suppose I should probably check the one from that video before, just in case, because I know last time
Oh.
we missed comments. Well, we didn't miss them, but we caught comments from the one beforehand. But it looks like we've caught everything. Wait, have we?
You tell me.
Actually, I think we haven't seen this comment before. So this is one from actually it was one from Hawk Aussie. I feel like we did read a Hawk Aussie. Yeah, we did read a Hawk Aussie comment. So I think we definitely did see that comment. My bad. Okay, let's just go straight to the last episode then. When of course we've actually only got one comment to read, and it reads from Ann Emma. Comment for the algorithm, YouTube wants it. And that is our YouTube comments for the week. So shout out Ann Emma. Thanks for the comment, for helping out in the YouTube algorithm, and thanks for supporting us on Patreon as well.
Thank you.
Appreciate it to keep the podcast going. And yeah, I think that's about all we've got to say. So good luck to everyone that is going to be competing in Brisbane this weekend. I look forward to seeing some really hype battles, and let's hope that we don't melt in suit
I thought it's
jackets and
raining
all.
in Brisbane.
Could be. Is it? That's actually that would be
it's
such
raining
a
and
relief.
Yeah, that's what I said. Everyone's
That's
like,
so
such
good.
bad weather. I'm just like, yeah, keep it wet.
Oh yeah. 22 to 24 degrees Celsius rain.
Yeah.
All right, we are winning.
Inside a convention
This is huge. And then the sun comes out for the next day when suits are off. So all right, shout out Brisbane weather. You're usually the sunshine state, but happy for it to take a break. So shout out. But yeah, I guess we will see you there. Be sure to tune into this stream. Again, if you forget the times and you don't want to have to come back to the podcast to find out where it is, I mean, one, you can do that if you want. But also, you can just check the graphic. It's on Twitter. I will have it pinned to my profile properly, so you can just grab it from there. It'll be... you can convert it to whatever time zone you are in, and we'll see you there. Or just type in 9 a.m. Brisbane time to my time.
Or just DM Steve, honestly.
Yeah, I'll personally let you know when the stream is. Yeah. But I'll be really short with you. Like, I'll copy paste the time and then not say anything else. So if you want that, though, I can give you that service. So let me know.
It.
All right.
Or you can type it in the YouTube comments and just ask for the time, and we'll just reply there.
We'll get it to you in 2 weeks. Chances are. So if that sounds good to you, feel free.
Drop us a follow on G'day Badlers at Twitter, and also like and subscribe and drop a comment on the YouTubes and all the other 5-star ratings on Spotify and other platforms. And we'll see you guys in Brisbane.
All right. Peace up.
I'm going to get copyrighted now.
Yeah.